guys. Good morning. Go ahead and let me know when you're here. Good morning. Good morning. I'm gonna be looking something up here. So give me a minute. I gotta find a quick thing here, real quick. Okay. Good morning, guys. Good morning. Good morning. Sorry, I was having some computer issues, and I still am. Nothing with the live stream. I don't think. It doesn't seem, but having some issues pulling up some notes for the lecture. So give me one more minute here while I kind of figure things out. Not only that, still give people a few minutes to get logged in. With that said, good morning, guys. I see everyone here. With that said, if you have any questions, go ahead and fire away. Let me know right now. And like, as I was just saying, good morning, Esmeralda. Give me one more minute here, a couple more minutes here. Let people or give people a chance to get logged in. But also, I need to hunt down these notes. So give me 1 second. My computer is acting quite odd this morning. So I'm going to find another way to do this. Give me 1 second. One second. Hopefully you guys can still somewhat see me. Okay. All right. So we're going to get rolling here. Don't worry if I haven't acknowledged you here. When I end the live stream, the chat still stays there, and I still have a list of the people who signed in. So not a big deal. I'll get your names towards the end. A couple of things to address. Number one, late assignments, they're not being accepted anymore, right? I'm a little forgiving at first when we get things going, or if there was a hiccup technically, but just telling me that you didn't get something in or you weren't in class because things have been rough or whatever, right? I get it. Life's rough. You still have to be in class. That's not an excuse, right? It's not an excuse to not get your assignment done and get it done on time and in. It works once, maybe it doesn't work a second time. So make sure you're logging in, staying on top of what you need to do, and just stay on top of your stuff. That's all that can be said right now. College is about jumping through hoops. That's a big part of getting a degree, proving to the school, your instructors, your professors, whoever it be, and ultimately getting that piece of paper and showing that, yeah, I can dedicate myself to something, and yeah, I can get it done. I can jump through all the hoops that need to be jumped through to get this done. Right? That's one of the messages that you're sending to a potential employer right down the road. So enough of that. Just to recap, last week we started talking about STDs. We started talking about, are you at risk, and just started to identify some of the numbers and the statistics that are around that risk, and really how you can evaluate that risk. Remember some of those numbers. How many partners have you had? Have you had multiple partners? And again, there's not a specific number, but multiple means more than one. Are you between the ages of 15 and 24, right? Have you had sex in the last 10 years? Are you getting tested at least annually, if not more? Those are some of the big considerations to have. And are all types of sex protected? The male condom, again, reduces fluid-to-fluid transmission or fluid transmission of STDs and STIs by up to 80%. Reduces skin-to-skin transmission by 50%. And obviously there's other contraceptives out there, but obviously one of the things that makes the male condom so attractive to so many users or so many people who are having sex is the fact that it's readily available, right? Readily available. So with that said, today we're going to talk a little bit about skin-to-skin transmission, and specifically about 3 STDs in particular that are kind of the biggies, the ones that we should probably know about the most, and the ones that by and large are probably the most common, or are the most common. And frankly, I think the ones that you should probably worry about the most, right? Kind of the biggies of the skin-to-skin transmission, STDs and STIs. The first one, and I'm going to type some of this in so I know, we can get the spelling correctly, is herpes, right? A skin-to-skin transmission or transmitted disease. And remember, the magic number is 3 inches, right? So what does that mean? If you come within 3 inches of the infected area for a skin-to-skin transmitted STI or STD, you are considered at risk. That's all that means. It doesn't necessarily mean that you get it. It just means you're at risk of transmission, right? And there are obviously other ways or other situations in which things can be transmitted, but just keeping in mind that, in the most, how do I put this? Even in the most low risk sexual activity behaviors, there's still a lot of skin-to-skin contact that's taking place, right? So keep that in mind. So with herpes, or with all these STDs, what we're really going to ask ourselves is, what is it? So what is it? Who has it? How many people have it? How do you know? Like, how do you know you have it? How do you test for it? And ultimately, what's the worst case scenario, right? So those are kind of the 3, or excuse me, not the 3, about the 6 things that we're gonna cover on each one of these STDs. So with herpes, what is it? It's a virus, right? So in other words, it's herpes simplex virus. And there's 2 strands, right? There's HSV, herpes simplex virus 1, and there's also herpes simplex virus 2. Okay, so herpes simplex virus 1 is commonly referred to as a cold sore, or even sometimes called a fever blister. It most often, again, the virus will most often infect like your mouth area, mainly your lips. And it, for the most part, a lot of people have herpes simplex virus, particularly one. To be completely honest with you, 1 in 5 sexually active adults have herpes simplex virus. Again, common cold sore, but that doesn't mean that you can't get HSV1 down there, right? So in other words, if you have a cold sore or if someone has a cold sore, any type of sexual activity will transmit that virus, especially if it takes place during the viral shedding period. And what I mean by that, viral shedding is when the virus itself is at highest risk for transmission, and that actually happens to be taking place when you first start showing the symptoms of having HSV1 or even HSV2. That's why it's such a highly transmittable STD. Most people don't know they have it. And if you've ever had a cold sore, it's typically starts off with like maybe an itch on your lip or a tingling sensation, and you're kind of doing one of those. And then maybe another day or two after, there's a blister that pops up. That's the open sore. But just because the day or two before that you don't have that open sore, but you start to get that itch or that tingling or burning sensation on your lip, you are contagious at that point, actually highly contagious at that point. And the viral shedding period goes on after the actual healing of the sore, right? So that's one of the reasons why most people who contract HSV are contracted from people who didn't know they had it. And just because you've never had a cold sore doesn't mean you don't have HSV. It's very possible that you do. You can simply get it from sharing straws, from sharing a soda, from sharing the rim of a glass with someone who's shedding the virus. But your immune system is keeping it in check. In other words, there are some people who will have multiple cold sores during a year. Most of the time, people just have 1 or 2. There's some people who have a cold sore once in their life and they never get one again. You still have the HSV virus in your blood, and you can still transmit it, right? So what is it? It's a virus. Who has it? About 1 in 5 sexually active people, so roughly 20% of the population, roughly. How do you know you have it? Open sores. There'll be a blister on your face or on your genitals. HSV2 will likely infect your genitals. HSV1 will likely be the cold sore on your mouth or on your lips. However, both can go north or south. In other words, you can have HSV2 on your lips, in your mouth, in your eyes. And HSV2 has a tendency to be much more voracious. In other words, it's an outbreak. It's a full-on outbreak of blisters or a cluster of blisters, not typically one blister or one cold sore, but numerous ones. And those can infect your vagina, your penis, your anus, your pubic area, and obviously your mouth as well. What's the test for it? The test for it is actually a blood test. But the doctor will also just, if you walk into the doctor, I think I said this last week, if you walk into the doctor and say, I got this rash on my penis or around my vagina, the first thing he's going to say is, well, let's take a look. A visual inspection will take place, but how they'll find out the difference between HSV1 or HSV2, excuse me, is a blood test, right? So the visual inspection is going to take place pretty much anytime you're being tested for an STD or an STI. Worst case scenario is you pass on HSV to somebody who is immune compromised, right? Someone who maybe is sick. I mean, your body, for the most part, will fight HSV1 and will keep it in check. That's not always going to be the case. There's going to be times where it pops up. There's going to be times where maybe your immune system is suppressed. And people who have immune issues obviously are more exposed to the dangerousness of any STI or any disease. Passing it on to your baby, right? In other words, ladies, if you're pregnant, making sure you're honest with your doctor about the type of sex you're having and that you're having sex if you are having sex while you're pregnant. Because, okay, so like when you're first pregnant, the doctor is going to bring you in and he's going to give you STIs and STD testing, HIV testing. You're going to get the whole gamut. You're going to get a PAP, a cervical examination. He's going to look at everything. They're going to start doing ultrasounds and figuring out the age of the baby and the size of the baby and all that kind of stuff. But if you're not letting them know that you're sexually active, and if you're not, more importantly, you're not protecting yourself, you're not being smart. If you have an active herpes outbreak during the birthing process, the virus can infect the eyes. It can also infect the spinal cord. And can cause significant neurological damage to a child whose immune system just isn't ready for that virus, right? So making sure that you continue to manage your health during a pregnancy it's crucial, right? Worst case scenario is you pass it on to your newborn, right? And they potentially become very ill as a result of it. Okay, so moving along. HSV1, HSV2, okay? The other thing is keep in mind that the outbreak, the herpes outbreak, is an open sore, right? It's a cold sore or blisters, open sores in and around your penis, your vagina, and your mouth. With that broken skin, now we have higher rates or higher chances of the transmission of STIs or STDs because of an open sore. In other words, infected fluid were to hit an open sore, boom, you're at a much higher risk of contracting another STI or STD. And like I said, they have a tendency to run in groups. They really do. If you've been exposed to herpes, it's likely you've been exposed to at least one or two other STIs or STDs, okay? All right, HPV. Which we talked a little bit about last week, human papillomavirus. What is it? Who has it? So on and so forth. Virus, right? Another thing that you cannot get rid of. Once you have it, it's yours. And, like I mentioned last week, most people have HPV. Who has it? Roughly 70% of the population has some form of HPV. There's literally hundreds of forms of HPV. A handful of them are contracted through sexual activity. An even smaller number of those are the type that are causing oral cancers, cervical cancers, penile cancers, so on and so forth. So again, protecting yourself, wearing a condom, getting tested are crucial, right? Important. How do you know you have it? Warts. You'll see cauliflower type bumps, either standalone or in groups, in and around your mouth, on your tongue, in your throat, on your hands, in your pubic area, your penis, your anus, your vagina, so on and so forth, right? So you'll know you have it that way. How do you test for it? To be completely honest with you, for men, it's a visual inspection, and there's really not much they're going to do after that. If you have like active warts on your penis, the doctor's going to ask him, do you want me to burn them off? Do you want me to freeze them off? Or do you want to just wait and they'll most likely go away? For women, it's a little bit different. You don't necessarily want to wait and have them go away, because if they infect the cervix, the cervical tissue, which is identified with a pap, infected tissue is identified with a pap. If you just kind of ride that out, the chances of getting cervical cancer are really high, especially with a couple strands, a couple strands of HPV. So getting that pap, and getting on a treatment plan via your doctor is crucial, right? Crucial. Worst case scenario, cancer. Again, HPV is taken over as the number one source of oral cancer in the United States. Cervical cancer, ladies. The cervix is a layered tissue that is at the bottom of the uterus, right? And so the cervix serves essentially as a cork for the uterus. In other words, that a good, healthy uterus is going to help take your child to full term, right? So let's fast forward to you being pregnant, you having the baby. Contractions start, they're typically up high. And the reason, and by up high, I'm going to move this down a little bit. By up high, I mean up high in your rib cage, because the contractions are pushing the baby down towards the birth canal. And then what happens with the cervix is what we call effacement. In other words, it thins out and it opens up, and it allows the baby to leave the uterus and head into the birth canal, ultimately out of the vagina, right? That uterus, that tissue is crucial to helping you go to full term with the child, right? All the entire term of the pregnancy. That's very, very important. Why? Because the very precious tissues, the eyes, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the pancreas, all of those develop last. Those don't develop first, right? They develop last. So to not have a premature child, to not have a sick child, healthy cervical tissue is a part of that, right? Is a part of having a healthy birth, healthy pregnancy, a healthy baby, okay? And so what is the worst case scenario? Worst case scenario is, stage 3, stage 4 cancer, metastasized cancer. I mean, the bottom line, and we'll talk about this later on, but your lymphatic system is like a cancer highway. So if the cancer is able to get out of the tissue, metastasize, get into your lymphatic system, boom, it'll go to all of the tissues it can possibly get to in your body. It will fully metastasize, right? So worst case scenario is your, this sounds pretty morbid, but you lose your life, right? You lose your life. Okay. Last skin to skin disease that we'll talk about is syphilis. That's why PHILIS, right? So, excuse me, getting a little hoarse here. Syphilis is a bacteria, okay? It's a bacteria transmitted, again, by skin-to-skin contact. And, who has it? The numbers around syphilis have dropped significantly, although they're rising. As a matter of fact, the transmission of STDs across the board are rising. But for many years, about the last decade, most syphilis cases have been in men having sex with men. And that's not a comment on homosexual sex. It's just that's where the disease has been transmitting the most. In other words, it can transmit through any skin-to-skin sexual contact between any two people. It doesn't need to be male to male. It can be female to female. It can be male to female, obviously. But that's where the numbers are right now. How many people have it? Off the top of my head, I don't remember that. It's not excessively significant, but what is significant about syphilis is this, right? Is having syphilis and not getting it treated will ultimately kill you. And what do I mean by that? Syphilis has the ability, as it develops in your body, to transmit to other tissues, particularly your heart and your brain. In other words, there are numerous historical cases of people going just crazy, people having heart failure, during times when we didn't have a treatment for syphilis. In other words, 15, 16, 1700s, right? People would get syphilis and they would just live with it, and ultimately they would die, or go, excuse my language, batshit crazy, right? So how do you know you have it? Syphilis, you'll know you'll have syphilis when first of all, around your genitalia or in your mouth, there'll be a painless sore. In other words, you'll just have an open wound. Now, it's very possible you don't know you have it. In other words, if it's in your vagina and painless, you don't know it's there, or maybe it's, underneath your penis and you just don't come across it. You don't really know. Ultimately, what will happen is you will get sores on the palms of your hands and on the bottoms of your feet, or a rash on the palms of your hands. If you ever get a rash on the palms of your hands, you've got serious issues, right? The palms of your hands are probably one of the most resilient tissues in your body for a reason, right? Your constant contact, constant bacteria, it's getting bombarded with all types of pollutants and all types of things, and your hands stay relatively healthy. If your hands show signs of significant health deterioration, like a rash, you've got issues, right? That's a good indicator you got something going on. How do you test for it? They'll do a blood test, but again, visual inspection, they're going to want to see the sore. There may also be a urine test for that, but it's not important. The rash or any sore, right? Any open sore. All of a sudden, there's an open sore on your penis, your vagina, or in your mouth, or around your mouth, or on your hands. That's cause for concern, and it may not necessarily be chlamydia or syphilis or herpes. It may not be that, but if you have an open wound or an open sore just out of nowhere, that's a significant indicator of some type of immune issue or something troubling your immune system, right? Worst case scenario, again, death by disease, right? Death by not getting it treated, pretty significant, right? Pretty significant. Okay, so question of the day, okay? This is what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you pick one STD or STI, right? And I want you to find out some stats on that STI or STD of your choosing. So what are the stats? Give me the number of global cases, the number of national cases. In other words, how many are in the United States? And now typically this is annually, right? Depending on what site you're on, I would just go to the CDC, right? The CDC, and I'll explain this in a minute, the Center for Disease Control. I'm sure you've heard the CDC. They've been in the news a lot with the coronavirus. Okay. So find global cases, national cases, local cases. Okay. And this is typically annually, right? And you can find that via the CDC. That's all you got to do, right? Pick an STD of your choice. Herpes. Great. Go to CDC, read a little bit about herpes, and your assignment is just type in herpes, global cases, ... national cases, ... local cases, ... click, send. You're done for the day. Okay. If there's any questions, send me an email. If there's any questions that you can think of right now, fire away in the comments. If not, one more quick announcement. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, Joe Biden and Donald Trump debate. All of you are the age of voting. I hope you take advantage of that. But more importantly, if you have an opinion about things or plan to have an opinion about things, that should be your opinion and not the opinion of the people you live with and not the opinion of the media that is trying to shape your thoughts and shape your mind. I did put the assignment in the comments there, Luigi. Okay. Do I need to repeat it? I'll repeat it in 1 second. So on Tuesday night, tomorrow night, watch that debate. Form your own opinion. Okay. So pick a STD of your choice. Yeah, it's in there, Luigi. Pick an STD of your choice. Go to the CDC. Read about it. And then tell me the number of global cases, national cases, and local cases. And you might have to go to a couple different websites for that. You might have to do your homework. I'd start it now. Okay? See you next week.